the other article that was entitled "How Dumb Our Politics Have Gotten," where the voter, which in this particular video went viral, but the Good Liars interviewed a Virginia voter who was asked, "What is the most important thing to you in this race?" Arden about to laugh, and he said that what's the most important thing to me is that our children and what they're being taught, and one of the things that we should not be teaching is critical race theory. And then the interviewer was like, well, why is it that it shouldn't be taught? He said, well, it's just some aspects of it. I'm not going to get into that right now, but it shouldn't be taught. And he said, well, what is critical race theory? And the guy was like, oh, well, I don't really get in and know the particulars, but what I do know, I don't like it.
Yeah, that was the my girlfriend goes to another school move, like, ooh, just dodge it. I don't want to get into it right now. Cause
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, and which is kid, and like, this is going back, sorry, Richard. I'm so sorry that you have to be exposed to American politics,
Yeah, likewise.
like, oh gosh. But one of the things that this particular tactic of dog whistling is not new, right? This is a tactic that actually was started like in the late 60s, early 70s to actually get Nixon elected to president. We all heard Lee Atwater, right? Okay. Uh, the, okay,
Go ahead,
Lee
explain it
Lee
anyway.
Lee Atwater was a political strategist that actually worked for the Nixon campaign back in the late '60s, and he utilized the term the Southern strategy. He actually was interviewed by ABC News in the like 1980, 1981, and one of the things that he said was that right after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was ratified, you started to have to kind of like police your language when it came to speaking about other groups of people like women, like minorities, like and the like, right? And one of the things that especially during the 50s and the 60s of the civil rights movement, like it was nothing to throw out the N word. Absolutely nothing. So, one of the things that he said, well, okay, now that this particular law has passed, you know, you can't say the N word anymore. He said you can't say N word, N word, N word, N word. So, you have to use coded words like states' rights or law and order or family values and
Mhm.
and these are just codified words to basically be as what they call dog whistles to voters so that they can use the same type of biased, prejudiced, racist sensibilities in their politics without using the unpolitical correct words, right? And this is what we have seen ad nauseum in a lot of these elections, especially what happened in Virginia, and especially like when you talk about like trans girls specifically, participating in sports, and even with the legislatures making these particular bills, and they're not using any type of medical science research in order for them to even come up with a policy that's plausible for everybody who could be involved. you know Same thing with critical race theory, like even like in Texas when they passed a law to say that okay, we can teach certain things in schools. It was just a watered down version of of history, that you even had to omit some of the people that, or some of the things that they said, while they were going through these lessons. Like there were certain aspects of Frederick Douglass you couldn't talk about. There's some things about Susan B. Anthony's work that you couldn't talk about. Like all these different things in order for them to say, hey, we passed critical race theory, but not really. And it's more just to say that we don't want to lean to science and we don't want to actually, teach history because it will make other people, especially like some of the other people who were rallying against CRT, saying that we don't want to make white children feel bad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
The teaching of history should never, ever, ever be ruled by politics.
Right.
It's that simple. And the thing is, black people have been institutionally vetoed against, if you like, for want of a better word, held down. That why wouldn't you want to teach that? Why wouldn't you want to teach that this has happened to a group of people in our society? And moving forward, regardless of what happened in the past, moving forward, we want to ensure that doesn't happen to any section of our society again. That, teaching history is going to teach you those lessons. And just because somebody has, probably Christian, I'm just going to throw that in there, has kind of got a problem with this, that's not enough to, kind of sneak these in, go into school boards. We all love Texas school board. We've done so many articles on the Texas school board.
Oh my gosh.
Try and sneak things in, regardless of what it is, whether it's like creationism or flat earth or whatever it is, they try and sneak in under the guise of science. It's bollocks, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think one thing that really made me sad was in the CNN article about critical race theory and how Youngkin's campaign employed that. There was a video embedded where they even interviewed some of the students in the school, right, who are seeing their parents and their administrators go through these things, and it really made me sad that the kids were like, I'm exhausted for my administrators. Like they are just trying to educate us. Like we don't even have critical race theory in our school. I'm willing to bet they're not afraid of the trans girl on the middle school soccer team. I don't think it's that big of a deal to kids. I don't think they're worried about this. But the only way that these Republican politicians seem to get elected is by doing these lies. Critical race theory teaches white kids that they're evil. They have to make themselves the victim. Adding trans kids to sports is going to cause some girl to lose her scholarship or cause someone to get assaulted. The only way they can get elected is by doing these backdoor lies and the redlining and redistricting and changing. They always have to do these sneaky undercutting ways to get approval from their constituents. And I think what really floors me the most about it is just how many people fucking fall for it, and how many parents are at these weird confessionals at school boards being like, I'm going to tell you why I know everything about critical race theory and why it's cancel culture. It's like, Karen, go home. Nobody in this administration needs you here. Trust me. Right. You're not contributing anything.
And take your Aquanet with you, honey.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm totally on board with the notion that maybe like parents want to have some sort of voice in, what their kids are going through at a school day. Like you're not there for, however many hours while your kid's away at school. I understand if a parent has concerns and probably needs a little empathy walking through that. But I don't think that us endorsing like these weird group therapy sessions at a school board meeting are really going to give parents any clarity. I think it, if anything, just affirms the misinformation that they already believe to be true in their head. And it's scary. Like the right and the left live in such like informational, like the distinct worlds, like what is true. I mean, obviously there's a truth, there's a fact of the matter, just despite what people think, but the worlds that people are operating in are just so radically different. It feels like something has to give soon, and whether it's like kicking parents out of these meetings or changing the names of critical race theory to like, I made a joke about this. I know people have always made jokes about like universal income, changing that to like the Patriot paycheck. Like we need to change critical race theory to like the Patriots history or something. And then all of a sudden, all the Republicans are going to be like, if Patriots history isn't in our schools, I'm pulling my kid out. It's be like,
Yo,
good.
hey, that's what 45 tried to do when he commissioned the 1776 commission. That's kind of what after this I forgot the Rodolfo person that was on Fox News, brought it up the first time, and then I believe that Trump called in and was like, what is this thing? And then they got to talking, and then next thing you know, we have the 1776 commission that was basically a whole rally against the 1619 project that was published by the New York Times and used as an educational tool to teach history in schools. So and the crazy thing about the world that we live in is that there's so much information that's available at your fingertips. But what is missing is the critical thinking behind how to feel the information that you're getting to see if if the information is the most closest thing to fact as possible.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
And this is why we are here. This is why we are here to really try to add to the discourse, to really to tell people, and I would say, like, if there's any type of call to action, it would really be to make yourself available to learn civics and to really devote yourself into critical thinking so that you don't fall prey to a lot of the misinformation that is in our society today. It's the best way I can put it. So,
Yeah.
oh my
Agreed.
goodness.
The great thing about that kind of article for me was, it's not the great thing, it's not a good thing, but the thing that made me laugh was just how easily people follow, and how little critical thinking. You touched upon it at the start, Cynthia, when you was talking about the guy who was asked about critical race theory, and it was just like, it's like, do you know what critical race theory is? I don't know.
Right.
Do you know when it was told? Well, I don't know, but I know it's bad.
Right.
You know,
I don't like it.
it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Stop reading magazine headlines and go into the article and see the sources and go do your research.
Right.
It really is that simple. It's all we need to do. Get good thinking out there. Get good thinking. It'll
Right.
stop you not knowing what critical race theory is. It'll stop you not knowing what vaccines are good and what vaccines are bad. It'll stop you getting conned by religious people. That's a one size fits all answer to everything we've talked about tonight. Just think better. Just think a little bit better.
Right. And I just want to say that doing your research is not sitting on the couch watching tons and tons of YouTube videos all day long, except the nonprofits. You can watch
True.
us and you'll be fine.